But the next step, though, and I'm 24, about to turn 25. And another thing that I like about you that is not talked about in the red pill space is fatherhood, and it is how to become a good father. I've met your children, and they have a respect for you that I think is. I'm trying to like pick up tips and like I'm planning for the future and trying to see like what the right ways to discipline and how to. Because I plan to make a lot of money too, so I'm wondering like if my son's going to be spoiled, stuff like that. What have you learned in your years as a father?
Whoa, big open-ended question there.
That's a big question.
Props to your interviewing skills, brother. So the first thing I'd say as a man, and haters are going to hate, it's not your job to be a mum. That's key. I see so many men, including masculine men, as soon as a kid comes, they drop everything that they do in terms of masculine activities and keeping themselves in the masculine frame, and they become a mum. Now, you can be a very attentive father, and you can still contribute and be caring without becoming a second mum. Your job as a man is to role model, is to coach. How can you teach your son the sort of man that he should become and the sort of man that your daughter should look for in a husband if you're letting go of your physicality, for example? Dads today, even young dads, when the kids, because when the kids are little, it's a lot of work, especially if you're there and helping. Keep yourself fit, you must. Keep your relationships with your brothers. Maintain your masculine skill sets, whether it's shooting or driving or fighting. Live it, go on adventures with your lads. Still continue to be a man who's living on your terms while being an attentive dad. That's the first thing. Don't drop everything that makes you a man because, there's a baby here and now I need to be a second mum. Society wants you to do that. Resist the slave mind. Still be a good, strong, masculine man. Be an attentive dad, but stay living in the masculine frame. That's key. Secondly, I think a lot of dads could do with being more attentive with their kids. Now, I don't mean, changing diapers and sitting on Netflix and watching I mean,
Agreed.
You'll see, I'm not sure if you've seen with my kids, I'll interact with them very much in a respect base. Like, kids have got a lot of energy. They will do silly stuff. They will break things. They will fight. I'll say to my kids, look, I want to have days where we enjoy ourselves. If you don't listen to your dad, or if you fight, or if you, disrespect the nice villa that we're in, there are going to be consequences. Just last night, they continued fighting with each other. I said, out of the pool. It's time to go to bed. No, but no. No, I'm sorry. There are clear lines that if you cross them, there will be consequences. Not that dissimilar to the way you can set up a healthy marriage, right? It's leadership of women and of children in the traditional dynamics. Again, haters are going to hate. That's what's needed in today's day and age. So have very clear frame with your kids and explain to them why you've just crossed a certain line, so there are going to be consequences. You need to do that all the time. To have polite, respectful children, you need to have that frame control all the time. As a final thought, I'd say you need to teach your kids that there are a lot of influences out there that want to program the way they think and the way they form beliefs that is not in their best interest. You can't be watching what your kids consume all the time, but you can teach your kids. For example, my son at a very early age, going through Netflix, he said, not that they watch Netflix anymore because the way it's gone, Dad, there's a girl power section on Netflix, but there's no boy power section. Why is that? I said, all right,
Great question.
I'm not going to put my beliefs on him. I'm going to say, you tell me, what do you think? He said, well, I see in all the movies, Dad, that the women are beating up the men and the girls are smart, but the boys are stupid. It's almost like everyone's trying to push women up. I said, yeah, I see that. And why do you think that's, not an ideal thing? He says, well, Dad, they're pushing men down. They're pushing boys down. I said, yeah, do you agree with that? No, I don't. And even at an early age, he said, you can push women up without pushing men down. If you have those informed, full attentive discussions about these things with your kids, they can come to their own beliefs, which is a lot more powerful than you trying to push them. So my son now, when he's sitting watching a movie, he'll say, oh, look, Dad, there's some girl power coming. I bet you this girl's really smart and this boy's really stupid. I bet you this girl saves this boy. Just the other day, we watched one of these Marvel movies, and he was right. He said, hey, look, Dad, I bet you this girl saves this boy. And of course, this superhero messed up and a woman came to save him. And my son can pick the programming before he even sees it on the screen. I've given him now a mental shield, if you will, to resist the slave mind. You must instill that in your kids, otherwise they're going to get programmed. You cannot be around them all the time.
It's pretty funny how, even as he was probably like 7, 8 years old when he picked up on that.
Yep.
It's really obvious stuff that we all know, but we let our guilt and we let different agendas restrict us from saying what we really believe. We can all see right through that and see what they're doing, but we've been programmed. So he's more honest as a child because he hasn't believed in all the propaganda. There's less of a filter, so he can be honest. It's not like it's that complicated to figure that stuff out. It's just the fact that he was able to approach that without somebody. Because if you had said, like, no, don't say that, girls need to be uplifted, he'd immediately like put up that's when the filters are established, and then that's when you start to become programmed.
And that's when they start to live against truth. Like a young boy knows he's physically stronger than his sister.
Yeah.
Whereas in all these movies, I would love some sort of metric where you count how many times a woman beats up a bunch of men in films versus a man hitting a woman. It'd be 10,000 to 1. It's every movie I watch nowadays, there's these superhero women beating up dozens of men. I've never once seen a superhero beat up, a male superhero beat up a woman. Like and our kids, they have pretty fresh, malleable minds. If all they see is women beating up 10 men, they're going to start thinking, hang on, but when I wrestle with my sister, I beat her up easily. But on the screen, it's all like, it messes with their truth perception. And so I think you need to empower them to, hey, there are certain entities, certain forces out there that want to program you in a certain way to believe things which you know are untrue, that are true. Be mindful as a young man and a young woman that you have the right to choose your own belief systems. Don't listen to what the TV says. Don't necessarily blindly listen to even what your teacher says or even what I say. Choose your own belief systems in life. You're smart enough to do it and you have the right to do it. That's a very important lesson to impart into your children.
I want to ask more about fatherhood.
I mean, I'm pretty passionate about it. I can talk for hours, man. Yeah.
I was on Grilling this show with that British girl, and we had this back and forth, and I kind of repeated some of your talking points on the show. She was saying, like, I want you to be home changing the diaper 7 days a week with me. And I'm like, well, I could be there like 2-3 days a week, but it's not necessary for me to change the diaper. Like, you need to change the diaper. I'm like, no, there's no point in me doing that. I don't need to be the mom, just like how...
First of all, your accent is spectacular. Well done, sir.
It's not that hard to do. Well, what do you think is the ideal time that a father should be at home with the kids?
First of all, I think this is a talking point you should have with a potential future wife. And you should say, look, I believe in traditional values. I know that if I'm around children, my testosterone lowers. I know that if I'm around a baby who's not sleeping, I'm going to be impacted. I'm not going to be as capable at generating wealth and protecting our family unit. I would like you to bear the brunt of the effort in terms of mothering, and I'll bear all of the effort in terms of making money and providing for this house. Where I can, I will give input into, child duties. But do we agree that that's predominantly your role? If a woman says no, then don't have kids with her. That's what I mean, the practical stuff. At the start of a relationship, define who does what and get full agreement. Because there are women out there who love the idea of, yep, you go deal with all the nonsense outside. I'm going to raise kids in a home, not worrying about money, not worrying about food. You're going to provide all of that. There are women who want that. Find a woman who wants that if that's what you want. If you want that 50-50 where the man does 50% of everything, woman does 50% of everything, which, let's be honest, is a little bit skewed. All these women like, what was her name, Cheyenne?
Yeah.
Who were saying, no, I want you to be around and change the diapers and do 50%. She's not going to bring 50% of the money.
Absolutely not.
She's going to stop her job. So you're going to have to do 50% of her stuff and 100% of your stuff. It's not real. It's a fantasy. It's a modern day myth that in many cultures today is viewed as ridiculous. Why would you sign up to that nonsense, that modern degenerate programming, which leads to divorce rates and broken households anyway? Mm-hmm. You need to make sure that as a man, you've found a woman who wants the same thing as you. And if she is a grounded, traditional values, feminine, healthy woman, she won't want you to do all that stuff anyway, because she'll understand, no, that's my job. You've got your job to do. I've got my job to do. Together we work as a team. Like a team doesn't try to do everything that the other person's doing 50-50. Right. That's not real. That's modern day invention nonsense that throughout human history hasn't worked and won't work ever. So it's a modern day societal experiment, this whole 50-50 stuff. Yes, women and men have equal rights. We're not the same. We don't do the same thing. Any woman who believes that is on a path in life where she will be unfulfilled. And this Cheyenne individual, as I understand it, she's not having much luck in relationships. She's not very fulfilled in relationships. So again, the question is, how are your belief systems working out for you? If you want a high-value man who's tall and good-looking and rich and can get any woman he wants, but he's only forever going to be with you, and you want him to be masculine and capable and high testosterone, but when a kid comes around, you want him to drop all of that and become a second mum, these things aren't real. They don't work. So again, how are your belief systems working out for you, Miss Cheyenne? They're not. So don't engage with a woman like that, because she's on a path where she's been programmed in such a way that's not in her best interests, and she's not going to end up in a happy relationship. There is no scenario where she finds a man she can respect and submit to, who then is that man and is high testosterone and successful, but also is a mum, and then follows her desires, and is the man who is able to go out in the world and create an incredible reality, but will submit to her dominant, instructions. It's not real.
It's never going to exist.
It doesn't work. So that sort of person is a broken person.
I didn't want to be that rude to her. I mean, there was times where I was thinking that. I'm like, well, it's never going to work.
It's not real.
It's not.
And her life is proof. How is it working out for her? How are her belief systems? I bet you she's the sort of woman. I haven't consumed her content, but I watched Tate with her and a little bit of you with her. I bet you she's a woman who's saying, "Where have all the good men gone?
Yeah.
I wish men would grow up.
Yep.
I wish." Well, guess what? Your expectations of what a man should be is self-serving and not real. You do not find a high testosterone warrior of a man who's wealthy and can take care of you, but then will submit to what you tell him to do. It's not real. I want this high testosterone guy who can deal with all the issues of the world, but then I want him to be a mum and change diapers because I told him to. It's not real. Again, her life path is going to show that her belief systems don't work. She just hasn't figured that out. And when she does figure that out, it'll be too late to secure a high-value man. It's unfortunate, but a woman like that is too stubborn to see the truth until it's too late.
I think everybody watching it knows too. I don't really think that she understands that people watch the show to see her get destroyed in arguments. They see that she doesn't really make a lot of sense, and the appeal of the show is let me prove you wrong. I don't think she really understands that.
She's getting punked, and her own viewers are laughing at her, not with her, and she doesn't realize that. And unfortunately, I feel sorry for her. She's going to realize when it's too late.
She's already like 30-something.
Oof. Well, then if we're going to be rude, it's already way too late.
Well, she's a nice lady. I don't want to be rude to her, but she is a perfect example of like a Western feminist that you should only engage with for entertainment and content purposes, because there's no point you're ever going to have a relation. There's no way you're going to have a happy relationship with her.
And the way that works is when she's getting towards the window where, she knows she has hardly any value left. Because in your 30s, a woman realizes, oh, I was more attractive. I got more interest from men when I was in my 20s. It's just something they realize. So she'll get to the point where she feels her value is running out, and she'll go and find a man who she doesn't respect, and she'll have an unfulfilling relationship, and it'll be that typical beta dynamic where she's always criticizing him, and he's resentful at her, and he's using pornography in the bathroom at 9 p.m. or cheating with, skanks out in the street or on business trips or prostitutes or whatever. That is a very unfulfilling basis for a relationship. Unfortunately, that's the path she's on, and history will show that's what happens when you have those sorts of beliefs.
What do you think is the ideal amount of time to spend with your kids? One thing that came up in discussion too is having. There they are. They seem happy.
They're awesome. They're fulfilled. They're grounded. They're respectful.
They really are. They're
learning, and I have happy, healthy children. Alhamdulillah, hadiyah min Allah, a gift from God. Healthy, happy, grounded, respectful children are the biggest gift you could ask for, because so many things can go wrong in that process. Sorry, mate. The amount of time around kids, it's a tricky one, man. I believe it's hard work, man. When kids are little, when they're born up until 2 years, 3 years, it's a lot of work. It's labor. Ideally, you're in a position where it takes a village to raise a child is true. You can have a mother or a grandmother or an auntie who can help with that stuff. I do not think as a man you should be around that, but I acknowledge that it's a lot of work. I think you should look to provide guidance, assistance, manual labor help. I don't think a woman by herself can handle that load. It's a lot of load. People don't realize, man, being around kids when they're little is work. And also the other thing, don't expect your wife to be sexual for the first couple of years of kids being around. You think about it physically. You have a screaming toddler that you need to put on your body to feed, or a screaming baby every few hours that doesn't sleep much, that you need to carry around. How are you also going to be sexual? How are you going to want to be touched if you have a little human on you that is constantly climbing on you, vomiting on you, feeding off you? You're going to be anything but sexual.
The last thing you want at the end of the day is another human sucking your body.
A man coming in trying to be, hey, baby, let's be sexy. It's not real. I do not believe a woman, especially in the early ages, can be a mother and a lover at the same time. I think that's an unfair expectation. Again, society has put on women, you should be a mother and be an attentive, caring mother. You should be a lover as well, who fulfills your man's sexual needs, and that's all he needs. You should also have a career and manage a job. What a ridiculous set of expectations that we're putting on women. It's just not realistic. And you'll see, I don't know many women who can hand on heart say, yes, I am a good mother and a good lover and a good career woman. It's an unfair expectation we're putting on women. I think it's terrible. And that's why you see so many Western women who are mothers who are unhappy, and all they do is complain on social media and whinge at their man and be resentful towards their kids. We're putting them in a situation that's just not realistic. So ideally as a man, you can facilitate support, whether it's, again, a grandmother, an auntie living with you in a big home, whether it's getting a nurse or a maid having help, not for the mothering, but for all the cleaning, all the peripheral stuff. I think you need to support your woman in those early mothering years, but ideally it's not you doing it, because you're busy out there conquering, running businesses, maintaining, physical fitness so you can work hard, having brothers who you're running businesses and winning with in life. I think your time is best spent elsewhere, but you owe it to your woman, to your wife who you love, to provide her support in the form of other women, because it does take a village to raise a child. It's not a one person or even a 2-person thing. The nuclear family is not the optimal model with which to raise children, especially when they're young. So ideally, you provide that support. Check in, obviously. You still have a role to play in terms of helping your woman to stay emotionally stable. You should be listening to her. You should be supporting her. You should be reassuring her. But I don't think a woman who is a mother should be expected to be a lover at the early ages. I don't think a place like a house with young children is anywhere for a man to be. I don't think you should live in that space. I think that's a female frame. And if you want to be that man who's conquering in business, who's really providing in the masculine frame to the best of his ability, being in a house with young children is going to detract from your ability to do so. I was living with my kids when they were in those early ages. Man, you don't sleep much. It's a lot of work. You don't train much. You don't typically get much.
Did you get out of shape?
Oh, 100%.
The dad bod?
Yeah.
Which you don't have now.
I mean, look, I put in I have a very strict daily routine that I follow to keep myself, healthy and mobile. Out of necessity, I have various spinal injuries I need to keep mobile. But during those years, it's very hard to live in the masculine frame and be living in that feminine, mothering frame as well. So to answer the question clearly, I think as a man, you should have your life together such that you can give all the support that's needed. You can come in and give support when it's needed, but then get out. As a man, you're not going to get a proper night's sleep in a house that has babies in it. You're just not going to.
And a hormonal wife.
You're not going to. So again, you should come in, support, and make sure that all the support network's there. But ideally, in an optimal life sort of setup, you're not living in a house that has young babies in it. That'll ruin your ability to be a high output man.